On this day in history, we remember the remarkable individuals who shaped our world. Welcome to Who Died Today in History, where we honor their legacies. From artists to leaders, their impact lives on. If you find their stories meaningful, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay connected.
Thank you to all our amazing channel members for your generous support.
Lara Parker, best known for her role as the enigmatic witch Angelique Bouchard in the gothic television classic Dark Shadows, passed away on October 12, 2023 at the age of 84. Her death was attributed to natural causes, marking the peaceful close of a life deeply intertwined with the haunting mystique she brought to screen. Parker's passing symbolized the fading of an era in American television when supernatural drama first merged with soap opera storytelling to captivate mass audiences in the late 1960s. Her portrayal of Angelique made her a cultural touchstone during a time of shifting social values, when questions of love, vengeance, and female empowerment were just beginning to find expression in mainstream entertainment. Parker's witch was not a mere villain, but a complex, wounded figure, reflecting a growing fascination with morally ambiguous women. In life, Parker carried this depth into her later work as an author, penning novels that expanded the Dark Shadows mythos and further explored the human hunger for immortality and redemption. The immediate consequence of her death was a wave of tributes from fans and colleagues who recognized her as one of the defining figures of Gothic television. For longtime admirers, Parker's passing evoked nostalgia for an age when horror and romance intertwined to express the anxieties of modern life, loneliness, desire, and the fear of time's decay. Her departure also reignited interest in Dark Shadows, drawing new audiences to the show's shadowy world through streaming platforms and fan conventions. In many ways, Lara Parker's death amplified her legend. She embodied the timeless allure of characters who defy mortality, and her association with Angelique blurred the line between actress and archetype. That blending of person and persona ensured her place in the pantheon of enduring screen icons. Her work continues to inspire contemporary reinterpretations of Gothic storytelling, proving that the themes she helped shape still resonate deeply in modern media. Ultimately, Parker's passing reminds us that even as physical lives end, artistic legacies endure through memory and reinvention. Humanity immortalizes figures like her not through monuments of stone, but through the stories that refuse to die. In every spell cast by Angelique, every rerun watched decades later, Lara Parker lives on, a haunting echo of the eternal dance between beauty, power, and mortality. John Denver, one of America's most beloved singer-songwriters, met a tragic end on October 12, 1997, when his experimental aircraft crashed off the coast of Pacific Grove, California. He was 53 years old. The accident occurred while Denver was piloting his newly purchased Rutan Long-EZ, a lightweight, home-built airplane. Investigators later determined that a fuel selector valve, located in a hard-to-reach position, likely caused the crash when Denver attempted to switch fuel tanks mid-flight. His death, both sudden and accidental, reflected not only his adventurous spirit, but also the era's fascination with personal freedom, risk-taking, and the blending of art with individualism. Throughout the 1970s, Denver's music embodied the idealism and environmental consciousness of a generation yearning for authenticity. Songs like Take Me Home, Country Roads, Rocky Mountain High, and Annie's Song celebrated nature, love, and simple living, values that stood in stark contrast to the hustle and bustle of city life, contrast to the social unrest and political turmoil of his time. His untimely death by way of his great passion, flying, symbolized the delicate balance between humanity's desire for exploration and the fragility of life itself. The immediate aftermath of his death was marked by an outpouring of grief from fans and fellow musicians alike. Radio stations across America played his music in tribute, and environmental organizations paid homage to his lifelong advocacy for conservation. Denver's passing also sparked renewed attention to aviation safety regulations, particularly concerning experimental aircraft and pilot certification. More importantly, his death reignited cultural appreciation for his message of harmony between humans and nature, an ethos that feels even more urgent in the face of modern environmental crises. In the years since, Denver's legend has only deepened. He has been memorialized through tributes, documentaries, and even a bronze statue in Aspen, Colorado, forever gazing toward the mountains that inspired his art. His songs continue to serve as emotional touchstones for themes of belonging, peace, and the human yearning for transcendence. John Denver's death reminds us that mortality often magnifies meaning. Through his music, he captured the universal struggle between earthly limitations and spiritual aspiration. Though the man is gone, the voice that once sang of wide-open skies still soars, eternal proof that art allows us to outlive ourselves, echoing endlessly through memory and melody. Joan Leslie, one of Hollywood's most radiant stars of the 1940s, passed away peacefully in Los Angeles on October 12, 2015, at the age of 90. Her death from natural causes closed a long and dignified chapter in the golden age of cinema. Unlike many of her contemporaries, whose lives ended in scandal or tragedy, Leslie's quiet passing reflected her grace both on and off the screen, a fitting farewell for a woman who had embodied the wholesome spirit of wartime America. Leslie rose to fame during World War II, a period when Hollywood became a crucial force in shaping national morale. She appeared opposite legends such as Humphrey Bogart in High Sierra, 1941, and Gary Cooper in Sergeant York, portraying characters that captured the ideal of resilience and virtue. In an era of global uncertainty, her youthful sincerity and moral clarity symbolized the values the nation sought to preserve amid chaos. Her death, decades later, reminded audiences of that cinematic innocence now long gone, an era when stars represented collective ideals rather than personal brands. The immediate response to her passing was one of nostalgia and respect. Classic film enthusiasts and historians reflected on her contributions to the war effort, not only through her roles but also through her work, entertaining troops and participating in USO tours. In a time when celebrity culture often leans toward sensationalism, Leslie's memory stood as a testament to humility, professionalism, and the quiet strength of women in Hollywood's formative years. Her death also served as a cultural marker, reminding the public of how the film industry and society's relationship with fame had evolved. Leslie's legacy endures not through controversy, but through the enduring charm of her performances, preserved in black and white reels that continue to enchant new generations. She is remembered not as a tragic figure, but as one who gracefully bridged the old Hollywood dream with lasting human warmth. Joan Leslie's passing underscores a timeless truth about mortality and memory, that we immortalize not only through grandeur, but through goodness. Her image, framed in light and shadow, speaks to the power of cinema to capture fleeting humanity and transform it into something eternal. A gentle reminder that grace, once captured on film, never truly fades. Sonja Henie, the Norwegian figure skating prodigy who dazzled both Olympic arenas and Hollywood screens, died suddenly on October 12, 1969, aboard an airplane en route from Paris to Oslo. She was 57 years old. The cause was acute leukemia, a diagnosis she had received only months earlier but kept largely private. Her death in the air suspended between two continents and two worlds she had conquered, symbolized a life defined by motion, grace, and ambition. Heaney's passing reflected the jet-age optimism of her time, when global celebrity and modern glamour were expanding faster than ever, and yet the human body remained vulnerable to the silent power of illness. During her lifetime, Heaney was a trailblazer who transformed figure skating from a sport into an art form. A 3-time Olympic gold medalist and 10-time world champion, she brought theatrical flair to the ice with choreography, costumes, and personality, an innovation that mirrored the cultural evolution of the early 20th century toward entertainment and spectacle. Transitioning seamlessly to Hollywood in the late 1930s, she became one of the highest-paid actresses in America, starring in musical films like Sun Valley Serenade, 1941. Her combination of athleticism and charm made her an emblem of modern femininity, poised, ambitious, and glamorous. The immediate reaction to her death was one of international mourning. In Norway, she was hailed as a national treasure whose fame had put the country on the global stage. In the United States, fans remembered her as the woman who brought elegance and artistry to a sport once confined to competition. Her funeral in Oslo was attended by thousands, including royalty and film industry figures, marking her as both a cultural and national icon. Heaney's death amplified her legend by freezing her image in time, forever youthful, graceful, and triumphant. Her story became a testament to how art and sport can merge to transcend national and gender boundaries. Through museums, biographies, and archival footage, her legacy continues to glide across generations, reminding us that humanity seeks immortality through performance and memory. Sonja Henie's life and death reveal that beauty, discipline, and fame are fleeting, but the impression they leave, like the trace of a skate blade on ice, endures long after the surface melts. Rudolph Isley, one of the founding members of the legendary Isley Brothers, passed away peacefully on October 11, 2023, at the age of 84, reportedly from natural causes at his home in Illinois. His death marked the end of a chapter in the evolution of American soul and R&B, closing the curtain on a life that helped define the sound of generations. As a vocalist, songwriter, and cultural figure, Isley's career spanned more than 6 decades, a bridge between the spiritual harmonies of post-war gospel and the sensual rhythms of modern soul. His death reflected the natural passing of an era that had shaped the moral and musical consciousness of 20th century America. Born in Cincinnati, Ohio in 1939, Rudolph Isley began performing with his brothers O'Kelly, Ronald, and later Ernie, Marvin, and Chris during the 1950s. The group's rise from church choirs to mainstream stardom mirrored the migration of African American music from sacred to secular spaces, a cultural shift that redefined the boundaries of identity and artistry. Songs like Shout, 1959, This Old Heart of Mine, and It's Your Thing captured the social and emotional dynamism of their times, celebrating self-expression, independence, and joy in the face of social upheaval. Rudolph's deep, steady voice and spiritual stage presence anchored the group's evolution, even as they adapted to changing musical landscapes. The immediate response to his death was one of reverence and gratitude. Fans and fellow musicians reflected on how the Isleys' music served as both a soundtrack and a source of empowerment during pivotal decades of American history, from the civil rights era to the dawn of funk and beyond. His passing rekindled appreciation for the Isley Brothers' versatility, their influence on artists across genres, and their message of resilience rooted in family unity and faith. In death, Rudolph Isley's legacy shines brighter. His career embodied the enduring power of harmony, literal and symbolic, in bridging generations and experiences. Humanity immortalizes figures like him, through the music that outlives the maker, songs that echo through dance floors, church pews, and quiet memories alike. Rudolph Isley's passing reminds us that while voices fade, their resonance can ripple through eternity, proof that melody is one of humanity's purest forms of remembrance. Nancy Spungin's death on October 12, 1978, remains one of the most infamous and haunting tragedies in the history of punk rock. At just 20 years old, she was found dead from a single stab wound to the abdomen in the bathroom of room 100 at New York's Chelsea Hotel, a place already steeped in artistic legend and self-destruction. Her boyfriend, Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols, was immediately arrested and charged with her murder, though he died of a heroin overdose before a trial could take place. The official circumstances of Spungin's death have never been definitively resolved, leaving behind a legacy of speculation, myth, and moral reflection. Nancy Spungin's life and death embodied the volatility of the late 1970s punk era, a movement that thrived on chaos, rebellion, and rejection of mainstream norms. The couple's self-destructive relationship, fueled by drugs and notoriety, mirrored the darker side of the cultural revolution they symbolized. In many ways, Spungin became a tragic emblem of punk's collision between authenticity and annihilation. Her violent end reflected not only personal turmoil, but also a broader social disillusionment in post-industrial Britain and America, where youth movements often turned anger into art and pain into performance. The immediate aftermath of her death shocked the public and media alike. Newspapers sensationalized her as a symbol of punk depravity, often reducing her to a cautionary tale rather than a complex individual. Yet, within underground circles, her death intensified the myth of Sid and Nancy as doomed lovers, a modern echo of Romeo and Juliet recast in the language of nihilism and fame. The tragedy also marked the symbolic death of punk's innocence, exposing the cost of living too close to the edge. Over time, Nancy Spungin has been re-examined with greater empathy. Artists, filmmakers, and biographers have sought to reclaim her from caricature, exploring her struggles with mental illness and the exploitative nature of fame. Her story reminds us of humanity's fascination with self-destruction and our impulse to mythologize tragedy. Through film, music, and cultural memory, Nancy Spungin endures not only as a victim of violence, but as a reflection of a generation's longing for meaning and chaos, a painful reminder that the line between rebellion and ruin is often razor-thin. Heinz Bennett, the distinguished German actor whose career spanned more than 6 decades, passed away peacefully on October 12, 2011, at the age of 90 in Lausanne, Switzerland. His death from natural causes marked the end of an era for post-war European cinema, a time when actors like Bennett helped rebuild Germany's cultural identity through art, truth, and moral introspection. His passing symbolized the quiet fading of a generation that transformed the trauma of history into the language of performance. Born in 1921, Bennett came of age during one of the darkest chapters in German history. Drafted into World War II, he was briefly imprisoned before returning to civilian life, determined to pursue theater. His decision to dedicate himself to acting during the nation's recovery reflected the broader cultural challenge of post-war Germany: how to confront guilt, memory, and identity through artistic expression. In his later career, Bennett became internationally recognized for his roles in films like The Tin Drum and The Last Metro, both of which explored moral conflict under authoritarian regimes. His performances, marked by quiet intensity and moral complexity, mirrored the soul-searching of a Europe still reckoning with its past. The immediate response to Bennett's death was one of deep respect, especially in Germany and France, where his work had transcended linguistic and political borders. Filmmakers and critics lauded him as a master of restraint, a performer who could convey a nation's conscience through a single glance. His death rekindled appreciation for European art cinema's golden decades, when storytelling was a form of collective therapy. It also reminded audiences of the power of film as a moral mirror, capable of transforming historical pain into empathy and understanding. In death, Heinz Bennett's legacy only grew stronger. His roles continue to serve as timeless meditations on responsibility, dignity, and the fragility of humanity in the face of power. Through retrospectives, archived performances, and the careers of his children, both accomplished actors, his influence endures. Bennett's passing invites reflection on how we remember artists who carry the weight of history in their work. Humanity immortalizes such figures not through monuments, but through emotion, their voices and faces forever preserved in the flicker of film. In that light, Heinz Bennett remains alive, a quiet conscience projected across time, reminding us that truth, once spoken through art, never truly dies. Aline McMahon, one of Hollywood's most versatile and understated actresses of the 1930s and 1940s, passed away from natural causes on October 12, 1991, in New York City at the age of 92. Her death marked the quiet conclusion of a long and dignified career that bridged the golden age of cinema and the rise of socially conscious storytelling. Unlike the scandal and spectacle that often accompany Hollywood legends, McMahon's passing reflected her lifelong preference for substance over fame, a reflection of the era's transition from glamorous escapism to introspective realism in film and theater. Born in 1899, McMahon was among the first performers to blend classical stage technique with the emerging art of naturalistic screen acting. She debuted on Broadway before becoming a contract player at Warner Brothers, where she gained recognition for roles in Heroes for Sale, 1933, Heat Lightning, 1934, and Gold Diggers of 1933. Her performances captured the struggles of the Great Depression, often portraying intelligent, resilient women navigating hardship with quiet strength. In an age of economic despair, her grounded portrayals resonated with audiences seeking authenticity amid uncertainty. The immediate response to her death was one of reverent remembrance among film historians and classic cinema enthusiasts. Though she never reached the celebrity heights of her contemporaries, McMahon was admired by critics for her integrity and artistry. Her passing sparked renewed appreciation for the overlooked women of early Hollywood, those whose contributions shaped the emotional realism and social awareness that would later define American film. In many ways, her career mirrored the evolution of the industry itself, from melodrama and spectacle to the pursuit of truth and human depth. McMahon's legacy has grown in the years since her death. Retrospectives and film restorations have reintroduced her work to modern audiences, who now view her as a pioneer of nuanced female representation. She stood as a counterpoint to the glamour-driven studio system, embodying instead the moral and emotional intelligence of her era's working women. Her passing reminds us that immortality in art does not always belong to those most celebrated, but to those most sincere. Aline McMahon's performances endure as quiet monuments to empathy and resilience, proof that the truest power of cinema lies not in spectacle, but in its ability to reflect the dignity of the human spirit across time.